Welcome back to the Pick 199 podcast, episode 41. Road to the NRL Finals Week 2. I'm here with Muzzy.
Hey.
Coxie.
Hey.
And Snakeo down the bottom.
What's up, everyone?
So this week we're going to talk about the NRL. Last round was this past week, and we're going to go through a tier list again because they're so much fun. So starting with NRL round 25, the last round of the season before finals. Thursday night we had the Roosters 40 over the Raiders 16.
Oh, how good was it?
I mean, not good for the tipping, but
you know, it was a game that I could actually watch and not be so stressed out about because it didn't really matter if we won or lost.
Yeah.
You know, and I would have rather have lost that game to cement a spot playing, 7 or 8, but you know, the way things went, it worked out all right.
Well, I really only tipped the Raiders because I thought they might step up to try and get into finals. And
that was their ticket, wasn't it? That was their ticket to the final.
A completely depleted Roosters team. That was the biggest opportunity they had, and they got blocked.
Yeah.
Never, apart from the first 5 minutes, they didn't look in the game.
And all the cards fell the right way for them too. Ronaldo got beat. So if the Raiders had won, they win. They had destiny in their hands. We never really thought Melbourne rolled out a really strong team. We never really thought that Cronulla were going to beat them. Everything was to play for. So for them not to show up,
I think I ended up tipping the Sharks to try and get through, but I mean, the Storm professionalism was just insane.
I read the Canberra group, I went on the Canberra page after full time. And all the comments were just how disgusting was that performance? Because it left nothing for them to get excited about for next year.
Yeah.
I still think their premiership window is still around. I think they've still got a premiership window. They need a halfback desperately.
Yeah.
Because Whiten can't do it all by himself. And they get a few outside backs back and they'll be okay. But they've really got to look at what's going on in the next season or two, but because they're not far off. They're still in a premiership window, but they're also not far off a full rebuild.
Yeah.
At the exact same time, they're in this real limbo stage. So,
any ideas about what's happened from last year till this year?
Well, they lost their halfback.
Had this big change.
You lose Williams, who they were backing to be big.
They also had Bateman last year too.
Bateman was huge because even last year when they were going really well, he was there. He was out for a few weeks. They went busted ass, and then he come back and they went on a run again. He was their gauge, and the grand final against the Chooks, he was so good in it that season. He was sensational, probably the best back rower in the comp. So they really missed that back rower. And they're really missing a half. And both those positions they had filled, and they both took off on them. So it's tough for Canberra fans because it's a what if. But the players that they left behind also didn't do a heap. So we've got no one but themselves to blame. Because on the other side, the Roosters had that many injuries, and look at that scoreline. So
Snakeo, you reckon they're one player away from back to being super competitive?
I reckon they're 2. I reckon they're 1 away from being a top 6. If they can get a good halfback, then they're close to that top half of the teams. If they can get another edge back rower, they need someone that can help Papali'i in the forwards. I think the signings that they had just didn't really cover the hole that was left. Which the talk is they're going after Dylan Brown from Parramatta. Even though he plays 6 there, he's only young. He's only 21. So there's potential there. And they're also looking at Luke Brooks a little bit. I know he's done absolutely nothing for the Tigers, but I don't think that's his fault. So there's a chance that he could do something there with a dominant 6 in Jack Whiten. There's potential, I think. He wouldn't be asked to carry the team. Yeah.
Takes the pressure off him. I think he needs a break from that Tigers. Not so much the outfit, but I think the club needs to think about moving him on because
they're trying hard.
They're paying $800 a year for what he's producing. I don't think he's worth $400. at the minute.
But I honestly don't think what they're paying him is worth what they're getting, because they don't have the pieces around him to make
That's
it
what I
work.
just said. Yeah,
They need to get rid of him, buy the pieces so a player like that can work again. But so on Canberra, I think they're halfback, a back rower away. But potentially that might not be enough, or potentially it would be. So it's really hard because they need to find another gear emotionally, I think, because they should have been able to get up for that game. So
I think for
100%.
them too, like if we look at like the Tigers, I think if they offload Brooks too, that 800K then turns into 1.5 mil for the next season too. So
yeah,
I think in interest for both parties too to sort of part ways, but realistically, the Raiders at the minute need a lot of soul searching at the minute for them to get back to where they were, like even last year and the year before.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to Friday night's first game. We had the Storm 28 over the Sharks 16. I didn't really see much of this game. I think I tipped the Sharks in hope that they would do all right, but I think
it was
professionalism and depth of the Storm just sort of shone through. So
yeah, I mean, it looked like the Sharkies were sort of putting in some effort there at the first half. It looked a lot close in the first half, and then just the way that second half started, the Storm just sort of a couple of six agains, and they just ran away with it. Like you can understand for any team to defend against the Storm's attack, but it would just seems like they were just sort of melted away a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Considering the team that Melbourne put out too, Cronulla had a really good effort. Like if we had the same sort of, that was the resilience that Canberra fans were looking for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they rocked up and they gave that game everything they had against a Melbourne team who some are picking as absolute certainties to win the comp. So they showed the spirit that Canberra fans were after. I just don't think the Sharks at the minute have got the players. They're just so thin. Like, but that'll all change next year and they'll be red hot.
Absolutely. Moving on to Friday night, second game, had the Panthers 40 over the Eels 6. Now, you would think for the first 20, 30 minutes that the Eels were right in this game, and they were.
Yeah.
But I think it just sort of was the strength of the Panthers, and also they were playing a team of players that really only play like 20 to 30 minutes a week, if that.
Tremendous effort by the Eels in this game. They come out of this not losing a whole heap.
No.
Their depth gets a lot of game time. Defensively, their structures were really sound. Now, I know that's hard to say when the team got beat 40-6, but they defended really solid. It just got blown out late.
Realistically, a kicking masterclass again from Cleary and strong edge running from Brian Toto again. Like that just sort of did the Panthers. And like I said, it was really close for that first half. So we know how good Penrith is, and they're one of the front runners for the final too. So I think that's how it's going to end up. Moving on to Saturday afternoon's first game, we had the Broncos 35 over the Knights 22. Not a good look for the Knights heading into the finals.
No, I think a loss was coming closer to them than another win, to tell you the truth. And the Broncos have been really good in the last probably 6 to 8 weeks. Since Eichen got up there, and defensively they've been a lot stronger. Milford had 3 try assists on the weekend. So he signs off his Broncos career in fashion. Little stat, he's had 4 games in his career where he's had 3 try assists. That's all he's had, right? They've all bar one of them have come in the final round of the season.
Yeah,
so
right.
He likes to play the last game of the year really well. I don't know what to take out of that stat, but it's just interesting.
We saw a bit of a change in terms of his playing ability, like compared to what he was doing all of this year up until he signed with Souths too.
Yeah.
So whether or not that's just giving him a bit more energy to sort of prove himself. We don't know what he's going to produce next year, but I
I
mean,
think he'll be really good. He's got a lot of footy left in him. And I just don't know how South's going to use him.
Yeah, I don't know.
because he's very similar to Cody Walker. So
yeah, exactly. I thought the
it's
exact
going to
same
be
thing.
it's going to be very interesting. But he's a good player. They're getting him pretty cheap, so he'll probably fill in Benji Marshall's role, to tell you the truth, and it'll be interesting to see what Benji does.
Wait, Benji. Yeah, anyway. Yeah. So what do the Knights have to do in terms of, like, we're coming into the final week? Well, not final week, the first week of finals.
Look,
Like
I think they just need to get their spine clicking. Like I think you were saying last week, Snake, that the spine that you've got there with Pierce and Ponga and the other boys, they haven't really played that much footy together this year.
Yeah, and those boys all come off at halftime. So Pierce and Ponga both come off at halftime. They stayed in this game. They probably win it, in all fairness, if Pierce and Ponga stay out there, because they just control it a little bit better. But those boys are just got to have some more game time. They've got Parramatta. Look, who the hell knows what Parramatta are going to do? Like,
you'd expect them to be stronger this coming week with everyone coming back in.
But they had everybody 2 weeks ago when they were getting towed up by everyone else. Like, they won a game against Melbourne. But apart from that, they were losing to Nufties before then. Like, the Dragons beat them twice this year. So if that team rocks up, Newcastle do them. Like, you just don't know. It all comes down to Parramatta in that first game.
But I think another big thing for the Knights too, I think they lost Clemmer at like halfway through that game as well with the rib cartilage injury. So whether or not he plays next week will be a big thing for them too.
And I think they've been missing one of the Saifidi brothers. So if they get the other one.
Jacob Saifiti's been out for a little while now.
Yeah.
I think Saifiti's been playing. So
yeah. So if they can get both of them on the park at the same time, they're awesome.
Yeah.
So, the Knights could shock some people, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on to Saturday afternoon's second game, we had the Seagulls 46 over the Cowboys 18. The Tommy Turbo machine keeps rolling on.
I feel like that scoreline, I feel like is pretty unfair for the Cowboys.
They were up 12-0 or something, weren't they?
They started really strong.
Yeah. And then, all of a sudden you've got Tommy Turbo gets a few and they get one. That one at the end they got where, when Ruben Garrick ran from I thought the game was dead and done. The boys just thought, we'll see what happens. And then, of course, Tommy puts it down.
Threw the ball around it.
Yeah. The guy only played one half of footy. He scored 3 tries. Well, he was really quiet in that first half.
Yeah.
And he stats at the end of it like the best game anyone's played all year. He does it every week. It's ridiculous.
I think it's worth noting too, Ruben Garrick's the first NRL player to score over 20 tries and over 100 goals in a season. So that's a major effort.
That's impressive.
Yeah, he broke Kazuma Mazru's points record for a single season on the weekend. So tremendous effort.
You think if he didn't have Tommy Turbo there, that we wouldn't be talking about that at all?
No, well, you wouldn't go close. That's why.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
No, very good. Well, moving on to Saturday night's final game, we had the Rabbitohs 20 over the Dragons 16. Now, it should be worth mentioning that the Rabbitohs had pretty close to 10 players out, and it was very much their B grade side that were playing against the Dragons, and I think it just sort of sealed the deal with how the Dragons have been playing all year.
Yeah, well, after you got beat by the Cowboys last week, I didn't really hold much hope for you this week against the Rabbitohs team.
When it was 20-0 or whatever it was, with a full half left to play, I was just like, okay, turn it
Oscar,
off.
what are your hopes for the Toys next year, for the Dragons next year, mate? What do you reckon?
Well, improvement would be nice.
But who's going to improve you? Like, in all fairness,
I don't know where it's. There's a lot of things wrong with the club at the minute, and like, I'm really coming around to what you were saying, Snake, about a dirty merger club.
I was just about to say, mate, you beat the words.
When our CEO and like all the off-base stuff is set in Cogra, so up in Sydney, and then the playing group is down in Wollongong.
Yeah.
So there's no sort of connection there between the
Yeah.
head office and the playing group.
And
And
in all fairness, like you've got the Cogra component, like the St. George component, the ones making the decisions, but the Illawarra component are the ones with all the money.
Yeah.
And that's where all the
That's
juniors are coming out of, that
all the
Illawarra area.
juniors are there, but all the money from the RSL club is in Cogra too. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like they need to find a way to fix that area to sort of to have that trickle down effect for the team. But
Dirty merger
I mean-
clubs don't work.
I mean, the sooner we can get bloody Corey Norman out of that club, the better. He is absolutely fucking useless.
How many years has he got? 1 year left on his
No,
contract.
he's done after this year.
He's done after this year.
That's why we're trying to sell him off.
Well, you can't
'cause when
sell
we-
him if his contract's done. He just leaves.
I mean, ship him out. We're not
Yeah.
offering him another
Yeah.
contract, I don't think. But the other thing too
You
is,
will. You
And
so
think-
will.
I tell you what, I'd be flicking him out. I'd send him over to Super League or something because he's not doing anything for us. And the fact that we sign players like him and then don't retain players like, well, we saw Frizzell go, we saw McInnes go, and now we're about to see Tarek Sims go, who was our best edge forward all year.
He was so good
So-
in Origin. It is.
Yeah.
I have no idea what he's thinking there. Absolutely none.
I don't think there is anything, and that's the problem. And the fact that we're retaining players like Josh Maguire as well, who's now facing another 6 weeks on the sidelines too after his high shots on the weekend.
Yeah.
Like I just sort of think, well, send him off to Super League too, because
Point in him. Yeah.
there's no point in having him there.
Has he got another year?
Oh, I didn't
I'm
think
not
so.
sure. I think he was only like like not a loan, but like we bought him from the Cowboys for the rest of the season this year.
Yeah, okay, right.
So
Yeah, I think they just bought the final year of his contract.
Yeah.
So, look, realistically, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed, and I might have a chat with our little mate Benny Matthews about how to fix our dirty merger clubs, because I'm fairly sure the Pens could run it better than the way they run it at the minute. In all fairness,
Yeah. I'm interested to talk about the other dirty merger club in a minute, but there's so much wrong. Like, and they're talking about the new franchise coming into Brisbane being a merger already. So they're talking about two of the bids, the Firehawks and the Jets merging. It's like you're merging before you're even established. You don't stand a chance.
yeah, exactly.
Like, you look at what like foundation clubs have merged and it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
With huge supporter bases in heartland areas.
I think
How
when I
are
was,
two teams that have never worked together going to make it work? Like,
Yeah.
they're not even close together geographically, let alone anything else. Like, it
I was
makes
listening
no
to
sense.
Triple M the other day, and Paul Kent and like Hoops and all those guys were talking about the push for the new Queensland side, and they were saying that because those two clubs are trying to like think about merging, that it makes the Red Dolphins bid that much stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things to consider before we even think about bringing another club in. But
Well, I can't think about another sport that does merger clubs the way that the NRL does. Like,
Well,
it's
we
just,
did
it
it.
doesn't really exist anyway. Like outside the sport anyway.
yeah, I
We
think
did
it's
it
more,
in
it's more like
'99 and like the early 2000s. We did it when we did St. George
Yeah.
and we did the Tigers at the same time.
Yeah.
That was around the same period. It hasn't worked. Like, we've given it 20 years and it's still not working.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, in terms of all the other sports in all the other countries, I cannot think of a sport that does it.
yeah.
And
Like,
they
it's
moved-
either
Realistically, like
it's either
think, like,
you bought out, or you're relocated, or the
Relocated,
franchise
yeah.
is bought. Yeah.
exactly like
And
you
it's
said,
never it's never like two clubs are then put together. It's just like in the NBA, if any team had the rights to do it, it was probably the Seattle Supersonics.
Yeah.
But they were disbanded because they just knew that the merger wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They've done it in the AFL where they've just moved franchises and it's worked.
Yeah.
Like, they need to, and the AFL are probably looking at doing something like that again.
Yeah.
With the Tassie option, they'll either bring in a whole new team, which is what Tassie want, but it's they think relocation. They don't think merge. They don't think and there's a reason why the NRL have made it look very difficult.
Yeah.
Very much so. Moving on to Sunday afternoon's first game, we had the Titans 44 over the Warriors 0, also securing their spot in the top 8 with a insanely good performance. And this is the sort of thing that we were sort of hoping that the Titans would produce earlier in the year. And they had glimpses of that, but I think now it's just sort of just clicking at the right time.
Yeah, it's a real shame that this game's going to be overshadowed by some of the idiotic decisions of New Zealand forward pack. Lodge, he's always been a tosser. His issues off the field have been well publicised, but on the field, they are some of the dumbest decisions I've ever seen made by a football player.
But I think even then, we saw that late hit that he did on David Fafita coming, just shoulder charging the middle of his back, which can go wrong. And we saw Fafita go off later on with a rib cartilage injury. But then on top of that, you have absolute meatheads like Kane Evans coming in throwing punches when it's not necessary.
And he only just got back from throwing punches.
Yeah.
He was throwing them a couple of weeks ago, and the rule's been pretty clear cut for a few years now.
Yeah.
Don't
Especially,
throw a punch.
it doesn't make sense when your team was 2 meters out from the try line to score, got taken out.
Yeah.
So you've had a chance. I reckon they would have had at least a sniff to come back into the game. Obviously, they didn't care about it. So
the Warriors weren't really. What was that? Sorry, you go, Roscoe.
I just said even just to score some points to make it look a bit more respectable.
Yeah. But I mean, the Warriors weren't really playing for anything though. Unless they wanted to spoil the Titans' party, really.
Well, they got to have something to play for, but because they haven't played, they haven't played for anything all year.
Regardless of what time of year it is, they should be professional enough to try and win the game, regardless.
And they're the kind of players that can't get up for that experience and that game. They're the ones you don't want.
Yeah.
They're the ones that you don't want around your young superstars like Reece Walsh.
100%. You don't want Evans. He's been shipped off from so many clubs. Lodge, why a club would sign him in the first place, I've got absolutely no idea. He can't be good for your culture. He can't be.
Well, realistically, he shouldn't be signed in the first place.
Well, the NRL shouldn't have brought him back. But...
Yeah. But I also think I had another thing on the Warriors that I wanted to talk about in terms of, the refereeing. Ashley Klein, this is the second week in a row that he's let a game get out of hand.
Yeah.
And I think actually this game was a lot worse than last week.
100%. And that Roosters game, it was bad.
It was bad. And but that was based off last week you can say it was based off one incident that Latrell hit on Joey Manu. I know it was festering for a bit, but I mean, this whole game was just about to ball over with every set. It was just really poorly. And I think for the fact that he didn't send off, I think it might have been Payne again even. He should have been sent off, not sin-binned.
Yeah. He should have been sent the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, look, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he gets reprimanded for his performance over the weekend.
Yeah. Well, I think they're both looking at big time. I think they're going to get maximums.
I meant for Ashley Klein.
Ashley Klein. Yeah. The thing is, I think he's got a final spot.
Yeah.
But because who was the referee that retired?
Chechen.
Yeah. He's been so good for so long, and he doesn't get a finals game.
Yeah.
Please, he's been the best ref in the NRL for years, and he just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get the games that he deserves.
And then you have refs like Ashley Klein or even Henry Perenara up in the bunker who can't make a decision properly either. So,
but look, it's and I do feel for Chechen, since his career started, he was sort of told he was never good enough.
Yep.
Which it's like any sort of athlete, I know refereeing's a different realm, but they're held to such a high standard all the time, and you don't get any of the praise if you're good.
Yeah.
But if you're rubbish, everyone knows about it.
And if you're not sure, the bunker's there to be used.
Yeah.
Like that's the way the bunker should be utilised.
Yeah.
Well, he come out and said that he knew it was time to retire when he'd have to make a big call, and all he could think about was how it was going to be in the papers all week.
Yeah.
No matter what he did, he was going to do it wrong, and he knew that before he made the call. That was the thinking in his head.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not fair.
I think even for like refs like Gavin Badger though too, I think he was in a similar sort of spot.
He was.
Like he was getting death threats and stuff from fans.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Which alludes to the question I was going to. Oh, sorry to cut you off, Coxie. The question that I was going to ask when we were talking about Roscoe was talking about not being able to control the game. Does the NRL need to go to referees? Don't need to reprimand that sort of stuff. Let it happen, sort of like the AFL, and then what happens after that? Then they get fines and they get sent off, and the rest of it.
Because that's where we were at before, and they had to get it out of the game. So like, that's when they brought in the send off. When did Paul Gallen punch Nate Miles? That was the last one. Where they did let it go to an extent.
6 years ago.
Yeah, so they let it go, and it didn't work. They're trying to clean up the game, and what they've brought in has worked. It's just inability for referees to control it.
Well, is it too much though? Is that the thing? Is it too much? Because most physical sports, so I'm talking like NFL, AFL, the NRL, rugby union. Most of the time, rugby union is probably the only exception where I think the refs do have a really good control of the game really easily.
Yeah.
As in, like, they do it really well. Not necessarily that it's easy, but they have a really good control of what's going on in the game. But in all those other games, it feels like that the ref's just there basically to ref and not control the game.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the answer, to tell you the truth. I feel like I always got brought up, and this is something that annoys me so much when I watch the EPL, is the way that the players interact with officials.
Yeah.
I think we need to have a greater emphasis on like players from junior ages even to the respect level that we show officials. Because I know I got brought up, you say yes sir, no sir.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because like I come up playing rugby. Like
I
think that's the other
I'm
thing
a rugby
too.
union player, and that's like the standard of what's expected.
Like
But I think it should be cricket. It's exactly the same. Yes, sir. Like,
I think for those sort of sports though too, Snaker, like cricket and rugby, like the umpire or the ref will take control, but the ref also has the ability to stop the game.
yeah,
Like in terms of like, it doesn't matter who's watching. Like they can just go, right, we're not going to play. So I don't know.
I think if we want to fix certain issues like this in the NRL, I think we need to look at what works in others. Like, and we can make it work in rugby union, so why can't you make it work in the rugby league?
Yeah.
And I'd go to the point that we're only really seeing these issues come from one official. So is it the entire structure, or is it this one official? Like, just a thought.
There's a lot of things for the NRL to think about over the off-season. So
yeah,
let's move on to our final game of the round, final game of the regular season. We had the Bulldogs 38 over the West Tigers 0.
Get it up, you Benny.
There's a lot of things to digest from this from this situation.
What was it like, Mars? You obviously watched this game.
Yeah, because I thought we actually had a chance for one.
What was it like, mate?
You did. You had more than a chance. You had the win.
If you've noticed, as you were chatting, I was not responding to any messages because I was glued to the screen and I just did not want to look away.
I thought you didn't want to put the pick 199 curse on them.
No, I did. I did that too. I actually was scared of that, to be honest.
Buzz refused to message back. Refused to message any Tiger supporters. So we get it for him. There was no talk of scores. Oh, I was so happy. I was watching the Bledisloe, watching the Wallabies play, And I was like, nah, I'd rather watch the Bulldogs play the Tigers. Oh,
Hey,
I don't know if that says more about
boys,
the
I called
Wallabies
it.
or
I
about
said-
this game.
I
For a
said
game
this
that
is
you
the
said
game
last week.
that he's going to watch. I said last week. I said, I bet you this is the game everyone's going to watch.
Well,
You
I
weren't
think we
wrong.
said last week that it's going to be a snooze fest because we thought it was going to be so bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
It was bad.
But it was worse for one
in
team than it
particular.
was the other.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so happy. But that Tigers team, that's the worst performance of the year.
Well, it's like we were talking about before that there needs to be not all
An
the blame
investigation. Say
not
it. There
all the
needs to be
blame-
an investigation.
not all the blame can be put on the players and coaches. The majority of it can, but I think there's a lot of things going wrong at the top too. So
You know, this is the most financial year the Tigers as a club have ever had.
Wow.
So,
but I mean,
like their front office is doing certain things right, but it's also doing a lot wrong.
the majority of it's wrong. Yeah.
Like some signings, like the center, the Rocket, James Roberts.
Yeah.
The coaching staff didn't even know he was coming.
Yeah.
He just got a knock on the door from the CEO and just said, "Oh, we've just signed James Roberts, just so you know." Like, how's the coach meant to get a structure? One, the Maguire Madge is all about defensive structure. So let's hire a centre that hasn't made a tackle in 5 years. And the only good thing he had about him was his pace and he's slowly losing it. Like signings didn't match what the team are trying to do. Yeah, and that's it. He's been injured all season anyway. So they've got $1.5 million in their salary cap that they can't spend because no one wants to go there. Yeah. So they need a marquee player. They've got $1.5 million and they can't get anyone. That's how much of a shambles they're in.
They're going to be in a rebuilding stage for the next at least 5 years, I think.
Yeah. Well, if if Will Kennedy was to sign with them, I'd be so sad. Like you wouldn't wish it upon anyone, like to go to that club because I can't see 5 years being enough.
Well, that's just as a base minimum sort of thing to try and get
100%. Like
back
it
up
took.
into some sort of thing.
They're gonna have to do this. They're gonna have to do their rebuild through juniors.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, the junior development at the minute, they're letting too many good ones go, and they're keeping them. And like Gus Gould did it with Penrith, but Penrith had a better starting foundation. He's a better businessman.
But it's not like the Tigers don't have a small catchment area. They've got a very big catchment area for
They've got
juniors.
the best. The Western Sydney side, like the Magpies side, Concord, the Concord area, that is like the best junior development area in all of football. And do you know how much money and effort they put into it?
Nothing.
Duck egg.
Yeah.
So Tim Sheen's going there next year. The whole idea is that he rebuilds their entire junior structure like Gus did with Penrith, but it's going to be a long process. I'd get rid of him. In all fairness.
Bit of regulation.
I've been talking that I want relegation for years. I don't understand why it's such a bad idea. Teams shouldn't.
It'll be money and everything else that goes with it.
It's TV money. But
that's the thing. Like the TV people might want to, because like I think that you'd have to show like the reserve grade games that are playing, or like the competition that's under it.
Yeah.
Because there wouldn't be enough money in the game to support that. Like we've seen in the reserve grade New South Wales Rugby League, like that competition was scrapped when we went back in.
Yeah.
So there was no money going through that for them to keep going.
Yeah.
So
the A League has an interesting way of looking at theirs because their sort of structure is heading towards that anyway. So with their current structure, so they're heading towards, we talked about in the pod a while ago, an APL, which is an Australian Premier League, because at the moment they just have separate NPLs, and their NPL 3 and 4 are all broadcast for free.
Yeah.
So, but they get hits on ads and stuff because you have to like sign up to watch the games, but it's still for free. So you got access to like NPL 3, NPL 2, NPL 1, which will then lead into APL and then to the A-League. So they've got a really interesting structure set up if they were to gain enough money to then transfer that into any sort of TV deals.
Yeah. No, it's all possibility. Because at the minute, I just think there needs to be more accountability.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like the Bulldogs shouldn't be allowed to win the spoon for 3 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even if it's one down, one up, I'd be happy with that for a bit.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it's fair, to tell the truth. It's just me.
Very good. Well, that's the wrap up of the last round of the regular season 5. Let's move into the first week of finals, and we'll go through our tips very quickly for this coming week. So on Friday night we have first place Storm up against the Seagulls, who are sitting 4th. Who we got?
I shocked the world. I'm going to go Seagulls.
Jeez.
I just think Melbourne have been good but not great for the last probably 6 weeks. And I think the Seagulls are really building to something.
I think the other thing that should be of note too is Cameron Munster will be out for this week as well, I think.
It's looking that way.
He's got another infection in his knee from where he did that MCL tear. So
is that O'Carr back? He had that hamstring.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, because he rested this past week, so he'll be back this week.
I think they're pretty much as strength. I think it's just Munster.
Yeah, right.
That's
it's hard to not go with Melbourne. Just seeing, just that level that they can get to when they need to. I feel like they've just been on cruise mode.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I suppose it's hard for a team that's winning so long to sort of always push yourself every game to play to your sort of peak level. So I think Eagles will be a test for them, but I still think Storm will get over them in this one.
I think so too. I think if Seagulls had been playing someone like the Rabbitohs, I think they're a much better chance against a team like that. But look, I think it'll be a good game either way with that rivalry that's there already. So, moving on to Saturday afternoon's first game, we have the Roosters taking on the Titans. Now, if you're the Titans, would you rather have played the Eels or the Roosters?
Nah, you want to play the Roosters.
I think you'd rather play the Chooks.
Yeah.
Purely based on the fact that 60% of their salary cap's on the sideline.
Yeah, we get Victor back this week, which is massive. Jared's back this week, which is massive. I think
Jared.
Yeah, I think we needed our forward pack back because if we're going to get beaten by the Titans, you're going to get beaten through the middle.
Yeah. And we only played the Titans, earlier in the year, and we had a lead on them, and they brought it all the way back to 1 point. It was a 1 point game.
1 point
I feel
game.
like this Titans outfit, if we're going off, how they performed yesterday, they're a much better side than what they were then, I think.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I think it's going to be a tough one. I think it's going to be very close. It might even be another 1 point game, Jakey.
I don't know if I've got that in me.
As much as I don't want it to be.
It's been a long year. Yeah. But yeah, I like the Chooks.
I've been going the Chooks all year, so I'm going to stick with them.
Yep.
I think I'm going to go Titans, purely based on...
You're a dirtbag.
Yeah. Someone's going to be against you, mate.
You're a fuckwit, Roscoe.
Yeah, everyone's against me. Fuck you.
Muzzy?
Look, it's tough. Titans have been so inconsistent the last sort of 6 games, and the Roosters are always consistent. And I just think, to piggyback off what you were saying, if I was a Titans fan, who would I rather play? I'd rather play the Eels, to be honest. You're playing against a team that's showed how inconsistent they are all year in Parramatta, and can go from real big highs to to beating the Storm to
0 to hero.
Losing to the Dragons. It's
twice.
It's
only won 4 games this year. The Dragons, 2 of them were against Parramatta.
I think the other thing is too, every time we sort of count out the Roosters, they seem to sort of pull something out of their ass to get the win too. So
keep counting us out, Roscoe.
look, I'm just doing it to be
mate.
different, mate.
Is it?
I think in terms of the halves though too, like I think
Drew
still like the
Hutchison's
Roosters-
last week, he was sensational.
Yeah.
He was
Hey,
so good.
exactly.
Hey, Snake, I got a question for you, mate.
Yeah, hit me.
You're a bit of a tactical genius
I thought
by your own self, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about Trent playing? You know, he's got Lamb at 7 and Hutchison 6, and he's got Walker as the 14th man.
Yeah. Look, I don't mind it because I understand what he's trying to do. So I think he's trying to hide Walker early. Defensively, he is a little bit of a liability at the moment.
Do you think we'll see a bit of that against the Titans?
No, I think he might start against the Titans. I think Lamb's been really good. He's been so
really
good.
at that
And he was probably going to be, like in all fairness, he was probably our first choice 7 at the start of the year. That's who I had at 7 at the start of the year.
Well, it was him and Keary, wasn't it?
It was going to be him and Kyrgios who I had. So I understand why they're sticking with him and why they've given him the crack. I just think our upside with Walker is so much higher. Like if you're going to win a comp, I think the chance of winning it with Walker at 7 is better than with Lamb at 7.
Yeah.
But I also understand bringing Walker on because he come on the other day, played 15 minutes. He had 3 try assists. Like he can just destroy teams late. Set back into the first half. Depends on when you need him. So
he's just so quick. And when your forward pack's just down and they've played, 70 minutes or so, like how can you catch him?
And you've got a pretty big forward pack in the Titans, so that might be something they look to do. Walker off the bench again.
I'm just having nightmares of thinking of Big Dave Fafita running over Semi Walker.
Yeah, it makes me nervous too.
Taking him over the try line.
But if Fafita runs over the top of everybody, it doesn't matter who you are. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
No, I understand what they're doing, but I think if we're gonna challenge the better half of teams, then I think we need to have Walker at 7.
If only he's had the 2 Joey Manus, mate, you'd be right. Hey, Coxie.
And now we've got none. Thanks for
When we went from 2 in Coxie's favour to 1.
Who you tipping, Muzzy?
What's that?
Who have you got for that game?
Oh, I got the Roosters, mate. Consistency. I like consistency.
He's a good bloke, unlike Roscoe. Piece of shit.
Moving on to Saturday night's final game, we have the Panthers up against the Rabbitohs.
Latrellus Rabbitohs, it doesn't hold much hope for me to tell you the truth. I think I've got Penrith winning the comp at this stage. So
as good as young Taff played on the weekend, Panthers have their full strength side there, and they carry so much more momentum out of that game that they played compared to the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, they still weren't great, Penrith against the Eels, but they just did the little things right. It's like so close to clicking majorly for them.
Yeah.
Defeat a Penguin off the bench is just, God, he's been killing it.
Well, even Fisher Harris being back in the side though too. He was phenomenal for them last week too. So.
They won purely on the back of Nathan. It's kicking game at the end of it. So
I think
Penrith is specials for me.
Yeah, I think for any team, let alone the Rabbitohs, if you're going to lose a player of Latrell Mitchell's sort of caliber, you're not going to be anywhere near, your strongest side.
Yeah,
and it is a big loss. Like we saw the difference he made, like in the Origin squad alone, and to be like in that sort of company to stand out in those, like among some of the best players in the game.
Well, I think he was ripped off not to be man of the series in that Origin. I think he was honestly ripped off. So
and I think Penrith are just going to steamroll them. In all honesty.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Moving on to Sunday's final game of the finals week 1. We have the Eels up against the Knights, and expecting Eels to have all their stars back this week. I think it's going to take a lot from the Knights. I think Ponga would have to score at least 3 or 4 tries for them to, or set up 3 or 4 for them to be a chance.
Yeah, I think Parramatta are going to do this one. I think They finally hit a good bit of form at the end of the year. Mitchell Moses is really starting to step up, and I like Parramatta.
Yeah.
And based on the way the night last week, I think it's tough for anyone to tip them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, with that, that's the preview for this final week of finals week 1. Let's jump across to, so we've got something special for all our fans. We've got the tier maker has made an appearance again.
Yes.
And
I
we're
feel
gonna
like
rate,
it's gonna make a few appearances this year.
I think so.
and we're just gonna rate how the years have gone for all the clubs in the NRL. So what we have premiership favourites, final specialists, exceeded expectations, heartbreak highway, and the garbage basket down the bottom. So what we'll do, we'll start off with the Storm. And surely they have to be up the top.
Premiership favourites.
Yeah, 100%. Solid as.
Yeah.
Knights,
Um,
I'm going to say exceeded expectations for
yeah.
Knights.
Yeah, they're right where I thought they'd be, to the truth. I think
Yeah,
they just
right on the brink of the 8.
they're right in that, like they're in that the middle of those two, you know.
North Queensland Cowboys,
Garbage.
garbage basket.
Absolute garbage. They are dreadful.
I think for the heartbreak highway, I think the other thing we can say for that is like they've got a glimpse of what they do in the future too.
There's
So
somewhere that they're going.
Yeah.
somewhere where they're going, and at the minute I can't see where they're going with that team,
No.
especially with our little mate Chad Townsend being their half for next year.
Oh, just for that fact alone, Roscoe.
Oh, I'll say it now.
You should have just got a photo of him, Roscoe. Just a photo of him, and we'll just put that on there.
In all fairness, I don't
Yeah,
reckon he'll play a
chat.
single game for the Cowboys. There you go.
I reckon they'll
That's
ship
his
him off
hot take.
to
Snakeo's hot take.
He's not good enough to make the team that's going to come last.
Yeah.
Like they'll win the spoon next year.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is he's going to the Tigers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Big money at the Tigers for him.
Gold Coast Titans.
I think heartbreak highway, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think they exceeded expectations.
Nah,
I definitely
I think
don't
they
think
want to do much
exceeded.
better than what they did this year.
Yeah.
I think they underperformed, to be
I
honest.
think we, especially halfway through the season, I think we all had them going higher than what they were.
Yeah.
They needed to make the 8 to be a pass mark, and they only just
made it in.
So
Yeah. Like if Canberra had a 1, we wouldn't even be talking about the Titans, you know. They wouldn't.
we'd be talking about how disappointing a year it is.
Yeah.
Sydney Roosters.
Final specialists.
I
So I was going to say exceeded expectations.
Yeah, I'd say with
I was
the
gonna say
injuries, yeah.
based on
I'd
with
say
all
with
the
the
injuries.
injuries, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say exceeded just from all the injuries and how much we had to rely on that depth all year.
Well, do you think we're in the same bracket as the Knights?
I think
No, it doesn't.
our
No, but
situation
hang on,
is-
I think in that bracket,
Come
you
on.
guys are up
Yeah.
here, and then the
Yeah,
Knights are, you know.
that's why I think we're final specialists. I think if you're talking about where we're going and where we've been, you can't ask a single thing more from the Roosters than what they put out this year.
That's why it's exceeding expectations,
Yeah,
I think.
that's why I think it's exceeding expectations.
You know what I'll do? I'll put them
think
in front of the Knights. There you go.
Yeah, better.
We've exceeded
Not being behind the
expectations.
Knights. Holy shit.
Do I even need to ask about this one? Dragons.
Garbage.
Garbage basket.
There's not even
Straight
any
up.
silver lining, mate.
No, there was nothing to take out of this year. We lost Ben Hunt with a broken leg and then a broken arm, I think. So,
And didn't lose Corey Norman. How about that?
oh, mate.
Of course,
I think it's-
He stayed fit all year.
Yeah. Sharks.
I reckon heartbreak highway.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's something
Yeah.
there for the Sharks.
Yeah.
Next year, they're going to be so good next year.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, considering all the signings that they've got for next year, Nico Hines, Dale Finucane being probably the best 2 signings
Yeah.
of the year, really.
Yeah.
Manly Seagull.
Final
Okay.
specialists.
Yeah, Tommy Turbo.
See,
Just
I
put
was
him
going
by
to say
himself.
exceeded
I
expectations.
was thinking the same too, Roscoe.
Mate,
Because- No. Can
Nah.
I just explain? Because if you base it off the first 6 weeks of the NRL season this year,
Yep.
they were in the bottom 4.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until Tommy Turbo came back that they were anywhere near
Yeah,
playing
but
finals.
with Tommy Turbo, they're still final specialists.
Yeah, so all right, if we're going to go into that category, Roscoe, then we may as well put the Roosters in premiership favourites, because if we had all our players all season, we'd be winning the comp. So
I'd be put.
let's talk about what we're actually looking at.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Nah,
Exactly.
that's never happened. Not happening. Rabbitohs.
Final specialist, I think.
Yeah,
I'm thinking final specialist.
they finished third. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were flying under the radar there for a bit. They won like 9 in a row.
Yeah.
But like when they
only
played
beat
those,
garbage teams, but
well,
in
they
that run.
lost to the Storm and both Panthers as well, I think. So each time that they played them. So I think,
yeah.
they're there, but not quite there.
Yeah.
Parramatta Eels.
Heartbreak Highway,
yeah,
I reckon.
I reckon too. Yeah, because you can't put them in exceeded expectations because they were so underwhelming this season.
Yeah.
And they're just consistently inconsistent.
We really need another category between
say
Heartbreak Highway and
final
Expedition.
specialists though too, based on what they've done the last few years though too.
You're
Final
drunk.
specialist.
You're not allowed to drink before the pod.
Seriously. I thought
I'm basically
Are we talking about the same team?
Yeah.
They got beat by the Dragons twice.
Yeah, but they still made it top 6.
Well, they,
yeah, but
they
I reckon
finished
they
sixth.
their expectations.
the
were making
Roosters
top
finished
4.
better than they did.
So we're
Yeah.
Heartbreak. It's got to be.
Heartbreak.
really
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, it's got to be.
I can't believe that.
There's no way they exceeded
what?
expectations. No way.
Your expectations
They
of them
finished,
are way
wait,
too
hang on. Did Eels finish 6th, didn't they?
Yeah.
How can you say that's exceeded expectations, Roscoe?
That is fair. I will concede that.
Fuck.
Get off
They
the
were
crap pile.
hoping 4th.
Get off the weed. Stephen A.
Bulldogs.
Uh,
I'm going to say Heartbreak Highway for Bulldogs because I don't think we're expecting anything out of them this year.
Yeah, that's true.
We're expecting them to be a little bit better with the signings that they made last year.
Yeah.
how many games did you win this year, Mus? 4?
3.
I think they're still
That's,
garbage, though.
I'm sorry,
Same
that's
as last year.
garbage. That's garbage.
See, but like, if we're basing it off like what we think will be there next year, though, too.
We're not, but aren't we doing this year?
Yeah, but remember I said Heartbreak Highway is also we can see signs
Glimmer
of
of
the future.
hopes.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
and you would base like off what
I
they're.
still think garbage basket.
right.
Yeah.
I'm still upset.
I think
about the Roosters.
for this season, if you
We're
finish,
going after
if you
Glimmer
get the
of
wooden-
hopes.
if you-
Roosters
yeah.
should go out.
if you get the wooden spoon, I think
Nothing other than garbage
yeah,
basket.
yeah, you got to be.
Warriors. See, I would have put Bulldogs
Heartbreak.
into
Yeah,
Heartbreak
Heartbreak
Highway
Highway.
and put Warriors in garbage.
No, they were only 2 games away from making the 8. The Warriors.
Yeah.
They've lived away from home for 2 years. They lost Roger 4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I mean,
Like,
losing Roger
and-
alone is enough to put on a Heartbreak
and then-
Highway.
They've got a future. Reece Walsh is the future. They've got good players there.
yeah. Well, I think the glimmer of hope saves them. I think because I think there is something there.
Yeah.
So
I think they still finish. They
trying to
still
rebuild
finish
that
like
base,
11th or
yeah.
something. Like
Yeah.
they had a good year.
West Tigers.
Garbage.
Garbage.
Is there any debate?
Nope.
No.
I didn't think so either. Straight up
behind
garbage.
The Bulldogs, yeah.
Penrith Panthers.
Premiership
Shit
favourites.
favourites.
Yeah. Not even close. Canberra Raiders.
Heartbreak.
Oh,
Heartbreak,
Heartbreak
yeah.
Highway.
Right, yeah.
I think so too. There's got to be something that changes down there, and they need a genuine half. So,
Yeah.
last but not least, the Brisbane Broncos.
I only go heartbreak for them too.
I think there's a glimmer of hope there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
last 6 weeks, 7 weeks have been quite good.
Yeah.
Still calling bullshit on the Roosters, but apart from that, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
Not very good.
Dragons
that's
could be
it.
lower.
Very good. Well, that just about wraps up this week's NRL previews, analysis, and what else. So thanks for listening. We'll chop these up so we got some clips for YouTube.